You're now tuned in to 13signsastrology.com. On this episode, I want to first give thanks. She doesn't really want her name to be mentioned on this episode, but I want to give thanks to Eve for sponsoring this studio space and helping us to get this episode up and running. And we partnered with her and was able to do some trading and things like that in that nature with some other channels and stuff like that that I'm tied in with. So I just want to kind of like publicly come on the 13 Signs format and, thank her for inviting us into the state of which we're at right now, of which I'm not going to disclose that, but just in thanking her and those people in the state that also helped to sponsor this particular episode. It's going to be pretty brief. I want to just kind of do a continuation on when we was talking about the sororities, and this was something that I kind of like planned to get into for probably about a couple of years, but I was just kind of like waiting for the perfect time to kind of like address it. So it's kind of funny. On the last episode, I was actually in St. Louis. Believe it or not, that's where I was at. I don't know if I disclosed that or not. So on the last episode, I was in St. Louis, and like that's the perfect place to kind of like kick off. Believe it or not, any information dealing with sororities and things of that nature, like dealing with St. Louis. There's a couple other places too, because sororities, as I was saying before on the last episode, that's what kind of takes you back into native culture. Like if you really want to start studying like native culture, you gotta first kind of like, you don't have to, but I mean, if you want to get a comprehensive understanding of native culture and how it merged into religious culture or even Masonic culture and how it eventually led into corporate culture is what it is now. And corporate culture and things of that nature, all of that came from Native American culture. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to isolate a few, because I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about sororities because we already did that. But I want to isolate a few different symbols in relationship to sororities. You guys have seen me always talk about the delta symbol, and I like using the delta symbol because it depicts a diamond. So in this episode, I'm going to kind of take you into the delta symbol, and you look at it as a sorority, of course, and things of that nature. And I'm not. I mean, I'm gonna say this too before I give out the information. I'm not able to really do a lot of research these days when I be like before I do these episodes, and it's for two reasons. For one, I'm usually striving to channel based off of what I know and based off of a real life situation that's going on and kind of merging that into a video topic. So that's pretty much like how I make my videos. And then for two, I've done so many videos and things of that nature. I'm up under a lot of restrictions when it comes to um, being able to kind of like have time to look up things and then jump on here and do a video because I'm in a situation where everything that I'm looking at is monitored. So I have to protect that. So meaning that if I sit here and go and research a bunch of stuff about sororities, fraternities, by the time I make this video, you're gonna have agents all over across the world in the NSA and all these different secret government organizations, the KGB and Mossad and whoever else, waiting, to see, okay, he's about to talk about a video like this and then possibly putting out other videos to offset the information. So I just choose to just kind of like come in. So sometimes if I say something, you're like, well, you could have like you could have researched that better or that, like didn't necessarily mean that maybe you could have went deeper. It's not that I don't know. It's just that I don't have a lot of airtime because I kind of like try to do things in a certain time format, and then B, I have to make sure that these agents pay every dollar that they have to pay for spying on people. See, they allow to spy on people. That's what you guys don't understand. It's just that do you have the commodities to protect yourself when it comes to these NSA agents and these government agents having the access and the ability, or whoever else. I'm not trying to single out the NSA, whatever secret government organizations out the country, in the country, whatever. When you somewhere private, even spying on you, do you have the access to protect that? So that's what I kind of like deal with and specialize in on a private level in a private format. But So I just want to say that. So like some of this information is really coming from the spiritual source. I mean, I could give you a lot of left brain knowledge in books and things of that nature, but I try to take secular topics like, everybody knows about the deltas, right? And then show you what that's really talking about. So that's what we're going to really do here on this episode. So, like, the delta symbol could mean a lot of things. Of course, we know it's a Roman symbol, of course. From my perspective, it depicts a diamond, but then you had like Delta Airlines and things of that nature. And that's what I'm going to kind of get into. And then you even have Dell Computers, and that ties into this episode. So Dell Computers, believe it or not, and Delta Airlines, and all of that stuff goes back to, it as sorority or sororities or the deltas, of which that symbol goes back even further and was presented up under the Theta Society and the Theosophical Society. Of course, most people know of Madame Blavatsky and other popular people affiliated with that society, but the information in that society comes from a certain part of the country. And when you talk about the Delta symbol, believe it or not, that was a symbol used, and it was similar to a drug. And this symbol was used originally by a group of extraterrestrials coming to put a spell on the natives of a particular land. And they used this, what you would call a diamond, or, the Delta symbol, to represent this spell that they were going to put. But when you go into start to research the Delta symbol and you get into looking at what it's really depicting on a 4D level, you'll see that it's more of a prism, is what it is. Like a diamond, essentially, but it's 4 dimensional. So when they throw it up, they do it as, like a symbol, like you only see it as 2D, but in reality, it's a diamond or some form of a jewel. Is representing a diamond or a jewel that has the power to control various computers, various software, and to use computers and programs to cast various different spells on people, humans. So this particular symbol ties into the aspect of humans that is tied into digits, or the digital aspects. So you have an aspect of you that's digital, that's locked into numbers, believe it or not. And it ties into Mercury, the planet Mercury. So there's an aspect of you that's tied into a computer, a supercomputer that's located on Mercury, believe it or not. And just had to make sure we were still live. And what happens is that this supercomputer that is on Mercury is tied into your biologic or your biorhythms. And it's kind of sort of like a graph. It creates sort of like a graph. So there are beings, when they want to come here and fuck with us on this planet, what they do is that they do research, right? And I'm not saying if you in this sorority to get out of it because it's evil. I'm just telling you for real. And I can go deeper into this, but I'm just going to take a few minutes to just kind of like walk you into how these symbols really take you into some deeper stuff on a cosmic level, believe it or not. And it could be backed up by astrology. All of this could be backed up by astrology. I won't take the time to do it here because I'm going to break this down into several episodes. I just want to present this to you first and foremost, the idea of these symbols tying you into computers. So now you tied into this symbol. This symbol represents a prism, right? So this symbol was used by a group of beings as a form of a drug, but not a drug, a physical drug, a mental drug, or a form of a data drug, like I talked about on other episodes. And this data drug, or this delta symbol, created various different programs in our matrix, is what happened. And eventually this delta symbol turned into money. Of course, all digits and things of that nature turned into units. It turned into units, then it eventually turned into money. And the reason why I'm singling this delta symbol out is because the reason I'm singling, because I could have covered, the Qs. I mean, you got various different fraternities and sororities and things of that nature. But the reason why I chose the deltas is because of the fact that from my research, This symbol is the symbol that represents everything that we believed in and we were born up under in the old world. And this delta symbol is fading out. See, it's fading out because this symbol was presented a long time ago, like I said, by the Theosophical Society, by a group of actual mothers, believe it or not. And it was a program used to create or clone a group of beings. So in the course of, so in the time when that symbol was first presented by the Theosophical Society, which was way back in the 1800s, believe it or not, before the Deltas were even a sorority, this symbol was being used. This was represent the beginning of a cloning experiment. This is what I've been kind of leading up to in my cloning episodes and things of that nature. And this cloning experiment started back in the 1800s, going up until actually 2012 is when it ended. So when they were talking about 2012, the world's going to end and things of that nature, this is actually when all of this stuff from these secret societies and all of this secret information that we were taught, it kind of expired, but it didn't. And this is where I'm kind of getting into now. See, it didn't expire. What happened is that you were given, or we were given, a certain amount of time to understand these symbols so that we could free ourselves from a greater threat. This is what I'm getting ready to get into now, from a greater threat that was going to eventually hit the planet. So even though this symbol was used to put a spell on humanity and to create a certain group of beings, by the time we were born, I'm talking about like the 80s babies and, people born in maybe even the 50s, even the baby boomers are going into the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s and all of that. So by the time we were born, see, we were born up under the programming of it. So our job, see, we were born up under the computer program, the Area 51 program. That's what I'm getting at. So our job was to learn how to break these spells of what really the spell of the devil, or some people call it the spell of Leviathan. And these various spells were tied into all these different symbols used by these sororities, believe it or not, and these fraternities. So I'm just using the delta symbol for right now, and all of these symbols tie you into different aspects of the computer. And this is how our existence now is locked in, because now you are locked into the digits and the aspects of the computer, and you locked into really a device that originally was used to put a spell on you, because it was a device that you had already had in you, and they took it out and they saw it in you. You didn't know you had it. Back in the 1800s, humans had this in us. It was already in you, and they took it out of you. The delta symbol, they took the diamond out of you and made it into a device, which eventually led into your phones, computers, laptops, whatever. They all controlled. They have many diamonds in them. Or now they don't put diamonds in them anymore because they're cheap. That's why they're falling apart now. But they used to put diamonds in them in computers. Back in the day, they used like metal and magnets and stuff now because they're cheap. But there's still a diamond, a delta symbols. I'm not going to say where on this planet. And this is what the elites, and they killing people to figure out where this shit is at, because it's worth billions of dollars, that controls all the computers. You see, and this was the original symbol brought by these ETs for a cloning experiment. And that's what I'm going to go into. So I just want to kind of present that. So it eventually led to them putting layers of fake power before you so you would never be able to figure out who's the true power. So this delta symbol represents, like David Icke taught me, the Russian doll. Because this is where I first learned it from David Icke. That's why I'm quoting him. And the Russian doll is a series of dolls encapsulated into one. This is actually the delta symbol. David Icke didn't teach me this, but this is what I learned further on. This represents the delta symbol being locked in and showing you how the world is hidden. The power, everybody wants to know what's the main power, what controls it all. It's layers of it and levels of it. And by the time you get to the highest level of it, you have to ascend out of the body to fully understand how these beings control you. See, that's the problem. Everybody thinks the devil is so physical and the devil controls you on a physical level. No, the devil controls you on a mental level outside of the body. To see, the devil's already moved out of it. He controls on a quantum level now, or she, or them. This group, this Luciferian group, is actually a devil's group. A Luciferian group controls with these various symbols on a quantum level. So what I'm going to strive to do is that in this kickoff on sororities and fraternities, as we go to different parts of the country, it's going to inspire me to go into different aspects of the information. So I chose Delta because of the part of the country I'm in now. And then in the next episode, depending on how some things go, because I'm walking some gates and some doors myself. So depending on where I end up at or how I end up there, we're going to show you from there what some other symbols mean and how this ties into this program that's used to control you and how simple it is to break out of it, though. How simple it is to break out of it, but how complex because of our dependency and need for these devices. And the simplicity of breaking out of it is the understanding of your own digital nature, the numbers that you were given by the Most High. So the Most High gave you a name. That name ties into a number. So even the Bible quotes this. So this is not evil and pagan. He said God gave you a name and it was worth more than gold. I always say this, but this name ties into a genetic number or a numeric number. A unique number is a unique ID and signature. And every time you sell that short, this is why we're broke. See, every time you say, "Well, I'm just rather get an ID instead of function off my unique signature," your unique signature may be the number 948 together instead of function off 948. You may have figured that out through series of channels. You know this is your ultimate signature, but instead of function off 948, you chose to go get an ID somewhere in Florida, for instance. So now you up under the number 6 and don't even realize it though, because you in Florida getting an ID somewhere. See what I'm saying? So we thinks this shit isn't real when we hear this stuff about metaphysics because it's so high level and we talking about prisms and quantum and this and that, but then we go out and make decisions to lower our density, basic decisions. Like I'm talking about on a financial level. Let's not even deal with the diet and all that because that's what I've been really focusing on. Let's try to teach us how to manifest on a financial level. And we can't do that right now because we make decisions to lower our density every time we go out. And believe it or not, abundance, and people think this is the opposite, but abundance is believe it or not, is attracted to a person that's on a high level consciousness can attract more money on an abundant level, meaning at a lump sum of money, like a person saying, I want to make $1 million in a day. This is what I'm trying to get you to understand. It's going to function more on a quantum level versus a person that's saying, I want to make $1 million in a year. See, this takes you into more of a physical level. And the reptilians, they function on a quantum level, so they make this money, then they're done with it. And people want to get greedy, and everybody wants it, but their goal is past the body. It's not to go get pussy. It's not to go get a new car, a Lamborghini. You see. So I'm gonna come with more. I got to go ahead and shut this episode down. We're gonna keep staying with these symbols and these numbers and dealing with these sororities. I think for a while on this particular channel. Just as a teaching piece to keep the mind sparked and keep our subscribers fed. So I hope this little bit of information helped. I want to go into more as time permits me. I thank you guys for listening and watching this brief episode. And we're going to go into more in the future, as I said. But as always, keep studying, stay vigilant. Namaste.